What's going on, guys? Big welcome to you all to our channel. We are Team Crushing the Meta, and I'm here for you with deck profiles for Spike Bullet Standard with the new support. We don't have all the cards yet, but I just couldn't wait to show you decks that I have been testing. The first deck that I will show you guys is the deck that I tested the most. The deck relies on riding Bull Spike first, then going into General Siegfried, or staying on Bull Spike, but riding multiple times. The deck plays 4 copies of Bull Spike, followed up by 4 copies of Juggernaut Maximum, and then only 2 copies of General Siegfried. I tried it both ways, like playing 3 Siegfried and 3 Juggernaut could also work, makes the deck also consistent enough. But it depends on your playstyle, because it's the early Spike rush. I wanted to play more Juggernauts because Juggernauts are very good to call in the early game, especially by having cards like Spike Bouncer who could call them. And this deck also functions very well if you ride into multiple times into a Bull Spike. You don't really need General Siegfried, but he does make things easier. Alright, for the grade 2 lineup, as you know, already said, you play the 4 copies of Spike Bouncer, then 4 copies of Baraki, and then 3 copies of the New Boy, which is amazing. I have been testing this card. First of all, I thought it's not good enough and it should not be in the deck. But Needle right here is so good because he's almost the same as Bracky, but he becomes better later on in the game. Also, you could put him on early game, just attack with him, he'd be like a vanilla 10k. After that he becomes stronger, so it's a good card. Let's wait and see what the deck could show us more. I would rather play him than play a Panther, or play him than play the new double rare. So after that, for the grade 1 lineup, we're playing 4 copies of Panther, 4 copies of Wonder Boy, and 4 copies of the Commander Gary Cannon. Commander Gary Cannon and Panther makes the deck really consistent, and does help out with having only the 2 General Siegfried and having 4 Juggernauts Maximum but not riding into Juggernaut Maximum. Of course, we played the 12 crit and 4 draws, and then Mega Trainer or any other starter that has the draw power. Okay, this is the deck. How does the deck work? It depending on how is your early rush. If you manage to put your opponent at 3 or 4 damage, then sometimes you don't have to use Force 2, you go with Force 1, especially if you ride first into the General Siegfried. Then you activate Force 1, you have that on the field, you hit the pressure on your opponent, and then you ride into another General Siegfried, or you actually want to ride into your main grade 3, which is Bull Spike. Bull Spike will be able to move those Force 1 markers that you have 2 in the whole field, and with that you have a very strong attacking turn. So it depends on which one you ride first, which gift marker you use, also depend on your opponent's hand, on their damage. But this deck is really impressive in choosing which marker you want, Force 1 or Force 2. It really depends on how good you are of a player to reading the game, to choosing which one you want to use. The grade 2 lineup, in my opinion, is amazing. I tried different 3 copies as in to replace Needle, but till now he's the best. You don't need to waste Soul for Panther, you don't need to waste Count Blast because you have your Bull Spike to move your markers. If you don't have your Bull Spike, then you usually go for Force 2, and with that Siegfried does everything that you need. If you're stuck on Juggernaut, then you're stuck on Juggernaut. It's always like that in Spike, but that's why you also play in the grade 1 lineup 8 cards that makes the deck consistent, so you don't really need to be afraid to riding into a Juggernaut in this deck. And the 4 Juggernauts, the 4 Brackies, and the 4 Wonder Boy do help with filling up the soul, which is something that you need, but also giving the power if you go to Force 2, which is also very important. The next deck that I want to show you guys is the Control Spike. This is the deck that I've tested less. This is the deck that I've tested the most and fits my playstyle the most. The Control Spike deck is a deck that could be played in a format like when Pill Moon is very good. Like when you have decks that you don't want to rush too much in the early game, so you have to be smart about when to give them damage. For the grade 3 lineup, we play 4 copies of the new Bull Spike, and then 3 copies of Bad and Dragger. Bad and Dragger in here do help a lot with Force 2 to give your opponent way too much damage at the same time. Also, he do help out with, if you go to Force 1, you could give him a lot of power because of Ball Spike. So you could combine the two very well. I do still play 3 copies of Juggernaut Maximum, as he is one of my favorite cards and he is still really good to have in there. Alright, next we have for the grade 2 lineup, I'm playing 4 copies of Spike Monster, 4 copies of Baraki, and then 3 copies of the new, I call him Gladiator. He is amazing because in this deck you could waste your Count Blasters, and if you're chilling on Bad and Dragger, like sometimes you right into Ball Spike first, then you go to Bad and Dragger, you could still move your markers around. So that's why Gladiator is really good in this deck. And Spike Monster, again, you could waste the Count Blast for this because you have enough Count Blast to work with. The Grade 1 lineup is still the same. Commander Grade Cannon is good. He could move out depending on which high rarity Grade 1 we will get. Like, Gyro Slinger just vanished from my deck as soon as we saw Punter right here. But it's also important to see if we get a Counter Charger. One of the triple rares or the double rares will be a Grade 1, and hopefully it would be a good Grade 1 for us to run in the deck, because depending on which deck, like this deck does not need Commander Gary Cannon. The deck before kind of needed him, so you could just replace him to play anything else, but I don't find anything else interesting enough to put in this deck, or it costs too much Counter Blasts to use, so that's why you're using Commander Gary Cannon. For the trigger lineup, we're playing only 8 crits, and then the 4 heal and 4 draw, and then of course your starter. As I said, this is more of a control deck, and it's, in my opinion, less good than the other one, but it does play very well depending on which format you're going in. But that's also very nice about Spike right now. We have 3 right targets to go to, and it could go both ways. So that's why. Last deck that I want to show you guys is this deck, the Siegfried Rush. The Siegfried Rush deck is a deck that abuses Siegfried to use most of your Counter Blasts on him, and then later on in the game you could still go to Bull Spike, and with that you could be kind of a finisher but in a different way. This deck still use a Spike Bouncer but only at 3. He is a good right target, but your new boy is also a very good right target. Why? Because having him already in your soul, or putting him into your soul with your General Siegfried, is good to repunish or get your cards back to your hand, but also get him the extra 10k. So that's why you run 4 copies of him, which you can combine him very well with the General Siegfried into multiple turns, getting him into your soul, and then having the opportunity to Soul Blast himself, and then still draws you the extra card. You sometimes could also use him twice if you restand him with the General Siegfried, which is also very good. In this deck, you also use Wonder Boy, you also use Mentor, and you also use Commander Gary Cannon, as again, they do help out to make the deck more consistent. This deck also used the 12 crits because, again, it's more of a rush deck, and you still play, of course, the 4 draw, which is always good to have in Spike. But these are the decks that I wanted to show you guys. It's just a fast video to show you my ideas behind the Spike decks for standards right now. And maybe in the future, of course, the amount of some cards will change. But also, the slots, the last slot for each grade 2 and each grade 1 could change, depend on what grade 2s and grade 1s we will have soon. So that's also very important. So the first 2 slots in every deck list that I showed you are important to stay there, but the last slot in each grade 1 and grade 2 lineup, like the Commander Gary Cannon, the Punter, the Gladiator, you can see that each time I've used another one. And each deck uses Juggernaut, uses Baraki, uses Wonder Boy, uses Spike Bouncer, uses Punter. These 4 are good. Juggernaut is also very good, and Siegfried is also a card that you will not leave out of your deck that easily. That's actually it for this video. I'd like to thank you guys all for watching, and also remember to go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, like, and also visit our Facebook group and let us know what you want to see next. Till next time.